What's good, people? Today I'm going to teach you the progressive overload model that took me from this shrimp looking guy to looking semi-decent. So the progression model is called dynamic double progression. And this is the progressive overload model that works by itself, meaning that all the questions you have about progressive overload get answered once you know how this progression model works. Some of the common questions we have about progressive overload are, should I add reps or should I add weight? And if I add weight, how much weight should I add? Should I add 5 kilos or 10 kilos? Or if I add reps, how many more reps should I go for? Should I just try to get 1 extra rep or 2 extra reps? Does it change based on what exercise I'm doing? Does it change on whether I'm in a diet or in a cut? Like, there's so many answers about progressive overload that I wish I knew at 16. And there just doesn't seem to be a video on YouTube that details everything you need to know to go from looking mid to actually looking decent. And I mean, look at me in these pictures, right? I don't want to be saying it in a bragging type way, but I went from looking dead, bruv, dead, like arms, like the bicep, there's no curve, like there's no vein, the forearms are looking midsection is just bloated and fat, and the definition on chest isn't there. And the worst of all, I look depressed. Like, if you look at me in this pic, I felt upset taking this pic. But if you look at me here, I actually look decent. Like, I actually look all right. Abs, bicep peak, forearm veins, vascular, abs, chest line. Like, I actually made progress and I transformed my physique, and I went from having a mid physique to building my dream physique using dynamic double progression. And in this video, I'm going to explain exactly how to do dynamic double progression so that you can find the progressive overload the correct way. But if at any point you're confused or you want more detail, this is also what I explain in even more depth in my coaching. So if you are interested in that, just click the first link in the description to fill out a form. It's completely free, then I'll get back to you. But that's not the point of the video, right? I'm not here to plug my coaching, I'm here to teach you. So allow us to begin. I'm going to first teach you the theory, give an example, and then talk about all the other in-between bits. And this video will be in order of importance. So we'll talk about the most important meat and potatoes of it first, and then sort of the more minute details towards the end that are still important, but they're not going to be the bread and butter of you making gains. So the theory. This is how dynamic double progression works. Number 1, you choose a rep range. Number 2, you use the same weight and you keep adding reps till you get to the top of that rep range. Number 3, you then add weight. And number 4, you repeat. Simple as that. Now let me give you these 4 steps in an example, and we're going to do 2 examples. We're going to do what I call the fairyland example, then I'll give you the realistic example. The fairyland example is what it should look like in theory. If everything was right in an ideal world, this is what it looked like. Then after, I'll give you the realistic example, which is what it will probably actually look like in practice for you. So this is my first time using this handy dandy pen, so please can everything go to plan. Please can technology not bum me right here, because this is when I really need you to work. All right, so the example is you're doing the hack squat exercise and the rep range you've chosen is 5 to 10. Now we'll talk about what rep range you should choose for what exercises later in the video. But for now, just know that the rep range is 5 to 10. And so you come in on week 1 and you manage to get 8 reps with 100 kilos on the bar. Now, following the rules of the theory, so following these rules here, what am I going to do next week? Next week, I'm going to add reps until I get to the top of the rep range. So next week, I'm going to come in, I'm going to get 9 reps, and I'm going to stick with the same weight, 100 kilos. So here was 100 for 8, here's 100 for 9. What I'm going to do on week 3, I'm going to stick with the same 100 kilos, and I'm going to get 10 reps. Boom. Now, what's just happened here in week 3? What's happened here is we've hit the top of the rep range. The top of the rep range is 10, we managed to get 10. So what do we do on week 4? We look at step number 3, we add weight. Simple as that. So we come in on week 4. Now, instead of using 100 kilos, we're going to use maybe 110. So we're gonna plus 10 kg. Now, because we've added more weight, obviously we're not going to be able to get 10 again. We're probably going to get shot back down to about 7 reps. 7 reps seems reasonable. And then what do we do now? We look at step 4. We repeat this entire process. So then we come in on this week, we stick with our 110 and we go for 8 reps. Coming in this week, stick with our 110 and we aim for 9 reps. Boom, 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 all the way throughout. Now, first question you're asking is probably, how much weight should I add? Should I add 10 kilos? Or should I add 5 kilos? Maybe 2.5? And does it change for different exercises? I'll get onto that in a second. Hold your horses, young buck. I know you really want to make gains, and it's about time you get fucking jacked. Hold your horses. I will talk about that in a sec. Now, let me give you a more realistic example, right? This is what's probably going to happen in training. And this example I'm about to give is totally fine. Like, this is totally normal. This is how life works. We are human beings. We are not machines, meaning that bullshit comes up, bro. Bullshit happens. We're not machines in which all of our cogs and cylinders can operate perfectly every single time like a machine can. No, we're human. Some days we might not get a good amount of sleep. Some days we might be in the gym stressed. Other days we might be under recovered, or we might not have eaten enough meals before. Like, whatever happens, bullshit happens occasionally. And because of bullshit happens, and we're not 100% accurate with our sleep, diet, and training every single time, this is probably what it's going to look like, right? Your progression will probably look like this, right? So Dandy Pen, please work for me again. So boom, 100 for 8, nice. Next week, you're going to come in, get 100 for 9, nice. Next week, you're going to come in, going to use 100 again. You're going to aim for 10, but for whatever reason, you didn't really get a good night's sleep and you're stressed in the gym and you end up getting 9 again. Okay, so you didn't make progress here, but that's fine. That's only 1 week that you matched reps. What's probably going to happen is next week, you're going to come in, you're going to use your 100 again, and then boom, eventually you're going to get 10. Okay, that's nice. So what do we do next? As you guys know, we're going to add 10 kilos, add 10 kg, going to go to 110. And now this is going to shoot us back down to about 7 reps, let's say. We're going to come in next week, we're going to get 8 with 110. Beautiful, everything's going well. And then again, maybe something happens. Maybe we forget to take our pre-workout. Maybe we're just not in it mentally. We're going to use the same 110. We're going to aim for 9, but for whatever reason, we get 8. Okay, that's fine. Then what might happen? Watch this now. This is crazy, right? And this is the type of stuff that used to depress me and used to make me think I'm doing something wrong, but it's just part of lifting, right? Then what might happen is you might come in with 110 and, hold on, what? 7? Oh, whoa, what's going on? Like, we're meant to be progressive overloading here. Like, how am I going down in reps? This is fine. This is normal, bro. I'm telling you, yeah? This is normal. Like, this is meant to happen. This is the way gym and life works. Like, sometimes the gains gods just ain't on your side. Sometimes you lose a rep for whatever reason. You're not in it mentally. Like, this is totally normal for this to happen. But then what might happen is something beautiful might happen. Something crazy, right? You come in the next week, use 110, and all of a sudden you get 9. So hold on now. How did you go from 8 to 7, right? So you lost a rep, -1, but then the following week you managed to add 2 reps. Like, what is going on, brother? This is making no sense. This is what lifted weights is like. It's not pretty. It's not linear. We're not machines or robots. We're human beings with lives. And I just thought of another good point to add to what I'm saying. We're human beings who most likely don't do gym. Like, what am I trying to say? Gym isn't our job. Bodybuilding and lifting weights isn't our career. Like, we have work to go to. We got school and exams coming up. We got families to look after. Like, we can't dedicate all of our living, breathing minutes a second to optimizing training. And so a progression model like this, where, you know, a bit of BS happens, like, you know, you don't progress reps here, but then you lose a rep, then add 2 reps. This is totally normal, bro. So this is what I mean. And this is why I really want to emphasize this realistic example, because I didn't just want to give the fairyland example and then you go off, try it, have something like this happen, and then, okay, why did I just draw 2 circles? I meant to highlight the whole thing, right? Have something like this happen and then think, oh my God, this guy lied to me, like this doesn't work, or I'm doing it wrong. You're not doing it wrong, bro. This is exactly how it's meant to be. Now, how much weight should you add when you add weight? So you see here, when I added the 10 kilos, why did I add 10 kilos? Why not 5? Why not 2.5? The amount of weight you add is influenced by 2 things. Number 1, the tightness of the rep range. And number 2, whether you're doing a compound movement or an isolation movement. And even further than that, those 2 things, right? So tightness of rep range and compound isolation, they affect each other. What does that mean, right? What am I talking about? Let me give it let me give an example and let me put it on the screen so you guys can see, right? So the question of how much load should you add? Like I said, it's influenced by two things, the rep range and whether you're doing a compound versus an isolation movement. So let me give an example here, right? So here, we're using hack squats, right? And the rep range is 5 to 10. Now, for example's sake, let's say the rep range is 8 to 10, right? So we've now tightened the rep range. Before, in 5 to 10, there were 6 different reps we could get. We could either get a set of 5, a set of 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10, right? 6 different reps. Now that we're using a rep range of 8 to 10, there's only 3 different rep numbers we can get, either 8, 9, or 10. And so when it comes to progressing, right? Let's just say we're on week 4, we managed to get 10 with 100 kilos. So now for week 5, we would add load, right? Remember last time when we added 10 kilos and we only managed to get 7 reps here? Well, if we're doing a rep range of 8 to 10, that would be outside the rep range. And in this progression model, you can never go outside the rep range. The rep range is there for a reason, and you must choose loads that always have you inside the rep range. And so if we added 10 kilos, we would be out the rep range and we would be going against the rules of this progression model. So in a situation in which the rep range is now tighter, so now we're using 8 to 10, adding 10 kilos and getting 7 reps would be incorrect. Instead, we would probably add something like 7.5 and then get 8 reps. 8 reps with 107.5, and that would be good. That would be correct. And then next week, what we're going to do, we're going to use the same 107.5 and we're going to go for 9 reps, blah, 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 blah. Now, that's the first sort of thing that influences how much load, the tightness of the rep range. If the rep range is really tight, you can't add more of what I'm trying to say. The load jump you take can't be that vast because a vast load jump shoots you further down the rep range. A smaller load jump shoots you further down the rep, not as far down the rep range. That's what I meant to say, sorry. So for example, in this example, remember when we added 10 kilos and we went down to 7? Well, if we add 7.5 kilos, we only go down to 8. And even if we were to add 5 kilos here, so if we were to go from 100 to 105, right? So let me just cross this out. We'll go to 105. We probably wouldn't get just 8, we'd probably get 9. So the less weight you add, the higher you stay up the rep range, the more weight you add, the lower you go down the rep range relative to the rep range and to the exercise. So the first variable, or like the first influential factor of how much load should you add is the rep range. The tighter the rep range, the smaller the load progression can be. The larger the rep range, the bigger the rep progression can be. Now, a note on that. You don't want to use rep ranges too big. The max I'd recommend for a rep range is one in which there's 6 different reps in between. So exactly like a 5 to 10. I think the 5 to 10 rep range, a rep range with 5 in between is the max rep range you can use. So like 5 to 10 or 10 to 15 or 15 to 20. Anything greater than that and progression will be too hard. So for example, if you're using a rep range of 10 to 20 and on week 1 you manage to get 10 reps, right? So the very bottom of the rep range. How many weeks are you going to use the same load till you finally get 20? Like taking your 10 rep max and making it your 20 rep max ain't something you do in a training block or a couple training blocks. So that takes years, bro. Like imagine a lift that you can only do for 10 reps right now. And imagine trying to do it for 20. Like you're not doing that in the next 16 weeks, bro. You're going to do it in the next like 2 years. So quick note on rep ranges is don't have your rep ranges too big. The max you can have them is like 5, what am I trying to say? Like 5 numbers in between. Do you get it? Like either a 5 to 10 or a 10 to 15 or a 15 to 20. That's the max. And even then, I like to have mine a bit tighter. So I like rep ranges of, some of my favorites are 5 to 10, but also like 8 to 12 and 7 to 10. They're just a couple of my favorites. 10 to 15 I like as well. So that's just a quick note on rep ranges, right? Next thing that influences how much load is whether you're using a compound movement or an isolation movement. So for example, on a compound movement, taking what I just explained about rep ranges into consideration, you will still always be able to add more weight on a compound than on isolation. Simply because a compound uses more total weight and there's more muscles moving it, and a bigger weight addition on a compound is a smaller percentage of the total weight. So a classic example is, let's say you're doing a 200 kilo deadlift, adding 20 kilos to a 200 kilo deadlift is only a 10% increase. Whereas adding 20 kilos to a leg extension machine is a much larger percentage of the total weight. And so when it comes to isolations, so like let's say your machine lateral raises or cable bicep curls, you want to take load progressions that are more like, 1.25 or 2.5 kilos or maybe a 5 kilo jump. But even then a 5 kilo would probably be too much. You're better off keeping the weight jumps much smaller. And this is where a quick tip I'm going to drop comes in. You can add plates to pin loaded machines to progress them. So when you're doing a leg extension, for example, if it's time to progress to the next pin stack, but the difference in weight is too large, and if you were to use that next pin stack, you would fall out of the rep range, meaning you wouldn't get enough reps for the rep range, then you can stay on the same pin stack, but now just put a little 2.5 kilo plate through the pin, and now you've made a little 2.5 kilo load progression. So when it comes to how much load should you add, compounds, you can typically add more. I'd recommend anywhere from 2.5 to about 10 kilos every time you jump up, obviously dependent on the rep range and dependent how many reps you left in reserve when you're going to take the rep jump. Whereas on isolations, you want to stick more to like 1.25 to like max 5 kilo jumps at a time. Now, quick note, I explain all of this in way more detail in my coaching service, in which I teach guys how to build their dream physique. So if you're interested, just fill out the form down below. I'll get in contact with you. We can have a chat. It's completely free, obviously. I'm not going to charge for my time just to speak to me just yet. So click the link down below if you're interested in coaching. Let's get you building your dream physique this summer. Now I want to talk about some common mistakes. So the first is, that's not good. Now I want to talk about some common mistakes. Now the first is adding too much load. You see this all the time. People will add too much weight and they won't get enough reps for the rep range. So if the rep range is 5 to 10, they manage to get 10 reps. The next week they add 20 kilos and they only manage to get 4 reps. Now, if that happens, that's fine because that's part of the game and you're learning, but that shouldn't happen on a regular. With experience and with you making this mistake many times, you should start to get an understanding of how much weight you can add and to which exercises. And so the first mistake people make is adding too much load. Be careful with your load. If anything, I'd rather you be a little bit reserved with the load and manage to match the exact same amount of reps than to accidentally overshoot the load. And this is what I mean, right? Let's say we're here, week 4, 100 kilos for 10. So next week we're adding weight. I'd much rather you accidentally add a little bit too little weight. So we only went up by 2.5 kilos and managed to match the reps again and get 10. Or if anything, I'd much rather you do this, yeah? Instead of adding too much weight and not getting within the rep range, I'd much rather you add a little bit too little of weight and the weight be a little bit easy and you accidentally get a couple more reps than the rep range. So rep range is 5 to 10, you manage to get 11, okay, that's fine. That's way better than fucking up and accidentally going to like 120 kilos here. You can't even see that, right? 120 and then getting like 3. You'd much rather make the first mistake of getting 11 reps with a little bit too much weight than getting too little reps with you'd much rather make the first mistake of getting a bit too many reps with lighter weight than getting not enough reps with heavier weight. Simply because 3 reps anyway isn't our 5 effective reps. For a set to be effective in terms of hypertrophy, we must get a minimum of 5 reps. And so if you get 3, you're only getting 60% of the max gains you can. So why would you do that? Instead, I'd much rather you accidentally go lighter with the weight and get too many reps, but guarantee that set you done still has effective reps to failure and is going to build your muscle. The next common mistake is people using an inappropriate rep range for the exercise. So if somebody was doing dumbbell bicep curls in the 6 to 8 rep range, I would say to them, bro, there's better ways of doing things, because how are you going to progress a bicep curl with dumbbells, that is, yeah? And the dumbbells part is important because dumbbells only jump up in 2.5 kilos on a 6 to 8 rep range. Because once you get 8, are you going to jump up 2.5 kilos and then try to get 6 again? Like, that's hard, bro. That's a very big weight jump. You don't just jump up dumbbells every single week. Like, anyone that's trained in the gym knows dumbbells are hard to progress on isolations, especially on bicep curls. And so when doing bicep curls, you're much better off using a higher rep range, let's say 10 to 15, in which once you get 15, when you jump up in weight to the next set of dumbbells, you're going to get shot down quite a lot of reps, but you're probably only going to get shot down to about 10, and 10 is still within the rep range. So the general rule, and this isn't a hard rule, but the general rule is for isolation lifts, you're better off using a higher rep range. So something like, 8 to 12 or 10 to 15. And for compound lifts, you're better off using a lower rep range, like a 4 to 8 or a 5 to 10. Now, these aren't hard set in stone rules that you must follow, but they are just general recommendations that seem to work for everyone. And these are general recommendations that I've experienced after coaching many, many guys, seems to work for the majority of my clients. And this is what works for me. So isolation exercises, higher rep ranges, compound exercises, lower rep ranges, but still experiment with mixing and matching and see what works best for you. Now, the third common mistake is people cutting form to get more reps. So what I've just explained, this entire model, only works if the reps stay identical every single time. So if we come here, for example, and if I'm doing a hack squat and I get 8 reps with 100 kilos, so next week I'm going to use 100 kilos again and I get 9 reps, but this additional 1 rep that I added, I cut the range of motion, I didn't go as deep or my tempo wasn't as slow, then that doesn't count. So the third common mistake is people cutting their form and not using the exact same technique for the rep progressions. When you add reps, when you add weight, technique and form stay identical. You must use the same form for every single rep. Now, a couple things you should know. The first is you can do this with multiple sets. So I'm going to give you an example of doing this with multiple sets because we rarely train with just one set per exercise. So here is an example. Again, the hack squat in 5 to 10, but this time we're doing 2 sets. Both sets are in the 5 to 10 rep range. So this is what it probably looked like. So as we see here, we managed to get 10 reps with 100. So next week we'll increase the weight on this set. We'll go for 110 and we'll probably get 7 reps. And then last week we managed to get 8 reps with 100. So this week we will stay with 100 kilos again and go for the 9th rep. Now I could give you the fairyland example and fill this out fairyland way, but instead I'm just going to cut straight to the realistic example. These are some of the common things you can expect to happen when it comes to following this progression model with multiple sets, which is probably what you're going to be doing, right? What's common to happen, and don't get disheartened when this happens, right? This is perfectly normal, is for you to progress the top set, but then as a result of top set progression, either match the second set or maybe even regress the second set. Now this happens because the top set induced more stimulus and was a bit more tiring, and so you don't have as much juice in the tank, in a simplified manner to put it, to perform on the second set. So it might look something like this, right? So here we use our same 110 and we get 8 reps, but now because we've made progress here, we're a bit more fatigued, and then next week we might just match the reps. So that was a horrible 9. This is meant to be 9. So here we only managed to get 9 for 100, which would mean that on the second set there's no progress, but on the top set there was progress. And that's totally fine. That's normal. That's exactly how it's meant to be. And oftentimes progress on the second set reduces the chances of progress on the, and oftentimes progress on the first set reduces the chances of progress on the second set. Now, not always, but sometimes. Even what might happen, and this is weird when this happens, like this has my mind fried when this happens. What might happen is you might not progress the top set. So here I might come in, get 110 for 8 again, which is exactly the same as week 3. But now all of a sudden, I might get 10 reps with 100 here. So I didn't manage to add any reps here, 0, but I managed to add 1 rep here, +1. So when that happens, that's a bit weird. That always has me thinking like, did I not push as hard on the top set? Or like, what's going on here? I don't even know. But yeah, when that happens, that is a common thing to happen, and that might. Or even what might also happen is you might progress the top set. So here you get 9 reps with 110. So this is a +1 rep. But as a result of top set progression, you might just regress the bottom set. So here we go back down to 9 with 100, whereas last week you got 10 with 100. So that would be a -1, but that's totally fine. Remember, we're not machines, we're humans. Not all of our cogs and cylinders turn and operate 100% of the time, 100% perfectly. Do you get what I mean? So this is totally fine. And then all you do is just rinse and repeat this process to the best of your abilities while trying to nail sleeping, diet, recovery, enough protein, all of those outside gym things to enhance the likelihood of you making progress when you're in the gym. So when something like this happens, we don't get upset about it. We don't get bothered. We just keep it moving. We turn up to the gym next week and we fucking send it and try our absolute best. And you never know. Next week you might come in and get 10 for 110 here. So that's a +1 progression. And you might get 10 for 100 kilos here. And that's again a +1 progression. And now you've just progressed both sets. Amazing. That's fucking fabulous. Some weeks you only progress the top set, but didn't progress the back off set. Other weeks you only progress the back off set, but didn't progress the top set. And other weeks you progress both sets. This is what lifting weights is like. This is what this whole gym thing is like. This is why we love it. This is why we go. And this is kind of what makes it fun. That it's not linear. That you have tangible data that you must beat from last time. Like you know that last time you got 9 reps, so you must get 10 reps this time. Like you psych yourself up and there's energy and motivation to beat your reps. And this is why lifting weights, bodybuilding and building muscle is fucking fun, bro. Because it really is just a game. And the better players at the game got better physiques and they're stronger. And the worst players at the game look like this. They look fucking garbage. And they get absolutely outworked and outcompeted by the better players. And there's a high chance, and I don't want to offend you here, but there's a high chance that you might be in this scenario here. You might be one of these worst players and you've tried everything to level up, to become a better player. Well, this is where dynamic double progression and my coaching services will help you out. And I don't want to keep banging on about my coaching because at the end of the day, bro, this isn't a video about coaching. It's a video about helping you. But if I've said anything in this video that's even of the slightest value and you just want to chat to me over the phone, in person, get advice from me for completely free, I'm not going to charge just for a phone call. Don't forget, click the link in the description, fill out a form and I'll get in contact with you. But don't assume that's the end of the video. I've still got a couple other common mistakes. So, sorry, not common mistakes, things to know. So the next thing to know is that when it comes to adding weight, you don't have to add weight that takes you to the bottom of the rep range every single time. So let's go back up here, yeah? Do you guys remember when we were adding weight? So do you remember, let's just pretend we're on 10 with 100 here. Do you guys remember when we added plus 10 kilos and we managed to get 7 reps for 110? Notice how this 7 isn't the bottom of the rep range. If I wanted to go to the bottom of the rep range, I would have probably added 15 kilos. And this would have been 115. So it would have been a plus 15. And then because there's even more weight, I would have probably got 5. So if I wanted to go to the bottom of the rep range, I would have added 15 kilos. If I wanted to go to roughly the middle of the rep range, so I wanted to get, either 7 reps or 8 reps, I would have added only 10 kilos. Or, and this is an option, what you can do, if you like chilling at the top of the rep range, just micro load your exercise. Just go up in small increments. So if you like doing sets of 10 on the hack squat, next week, just only add like plus 1.25 kilo. And now next week, you're going to use 101.25. And because it's such a small jump on a compound exercise, you'll probably be able to get 10 reps again. And then if you like chilling at 10 reps, then aim for 10 reps again. This time, add another 1.25 and use 105 and aim for 10. So it's totally down to you how much weight you should jump by and how far down the rep range you should go. Just remember our 2 important influences of how much weight you should add. Number 1, the tightness of the rep range, and number 2, whether it's a compound or an isolation. But like I've just explained, don't feel that you need to jump to the bottom of the rep range every single time you take a load progression. Now, what I want to do is explain the name. So this is what I meant at the start when I said this video is going to be in order of importance, right? Because who really cares about explaining the name? Like, you just want to get fucking jacked. You want to go from a level 0 gym noob to master prestige. So who gives a fuck about the name? But I'm still going to explain, right? So the dynamic. What does the dynamic bit of double progression mean? Dynamic means that the rep ranges you do per set can actually vary. So let me give you an example what I mean. In this example, in which you use multiple sets, we still kept the rep range the same, 5 to 10. But what you can do, and what's recommended for like keeping training more fun, is you can actually have different rep ranges per set. So on the first set, we're going to use the 5 to 10 rep range. And then on the second set, we can use the 8 to 12 rep range. That's totally fine. The same rules and principles of dynamic double progression apply whether it's a rep range of 5 to 10 or 8 to 12, and whether it's the first set or the second set. The same method is still in place. So you choose whether you want to keep the rep ranges the same for all your sets or switch them up. And if anything, you can do this in a reverse order. You can do a lighter set first. So the first set could be, let me scroll along. The first set could be 10 to 15, for example. And then the second set, something like 6 to 8. There's no hard cut rules in this game. It's all preference. Whatever you want to do. You want to do more of a pump set first and do higher reps, and then a heavier set second, do it. You want to do it the other way around, a heavier set first, then more pump work towards the end, do it, bro. It's completely down to you. So that's what the name dynamic means. It means that the rep ranges switch and flow on an intra-set basis. That's the right way to put it. On an intra-set basis. Yeah, that is the right way to put it, isn't it? Yeah, intra-set basis, so per set. Now, double progression the double bit refers to the variables we're changing. So, also should I say the variables we're progressing. So in this model of progression, the two variables we are progressing are load, so the weight on the bar, and reps. Now, when it comes to progressive overload, there are other variables that can induce progressive overload. So for example, something like tempo, for example, something like rest times, something like, trying to think of some others on my head. These are kind of the main ones. So tempo is like how slow you do the negative. Rest times is how long you rest. And so people have proposed these as ways of progressive overload. They say that, week 1, get 10 reps with 100 kilos with 3 minutes rest. And week 2, aim for that same 10 reps with 100 kilos with only 2.5 minutes rest. So, reduce your rest times, it'll be progressive overload. I don't like any of those progression models because they're hard to quantify and they're just not objective data. Sorry, they're not as objective and quantifiable data as load and reps. Like when it comes to rest times, it's like you could time your rest, but then what if by the time you've hopped on the machine and unracked it and taken your couple breaths to do the first rep, an extra 20 seconds has passed. Now you've rested 20 seconds longer than you should have, and so shit just get fucked up. Shit, you get me? Like it's not the one, bro. Whereas with load and reps, there's no what's the right word? Ambiguity. Yeah, there's no ambiguity around load and reps. You either used that load or you didn't, and you either got that amount of reps or you didn't. And so I prefer load and reps, and this is why it's called double progression, because we're progressing two variables, load and reps. And hopefully, if you learned anything from this video, now you know when to progress load and when to progress reps. This is how, if you need a reminder, which hopefully you don't, but if you do need a reminder, that means I haven't done my job properly because you didn't understand it. But yeah, this is how you do it. Choose your rep range, add reps. So this is, okay, I didn't mean to cross out. Add reps. So this is our first variable that we're progressing, reps to the top of the rep range. Then once we get to the top rep range, then we add our second variable, weight, and then we repeat. So boom, boom, boom. Bro, this is the progressive overload model that took me from being a fucking bum to being fucking jacked. My confidence is now through the roof because I have a physique that I'm actually proud of and that I can actually put in thumbnails to grab viewers' attention. So I hope I've done this video justice. This is the longest video on the channel, and there's a high chance that there's no one even here watching it because shit, my channel ain't even that big. So yeah, man. Hopefully I went to town. Hopefully nothing fucks up in the editing and this video can get put out nicely. And hopefully you learned something in this video. Now, if you want more information, if you're interested more in the system, or you just want to be overseen by someone who knows what they're doing, me, click the link in the description, fill out the form. I'll get in contact with you and let's begin the coaching journey of you building your dream physique. Thank you for watching this video, bro. I shall catch you in the next one. Love, man.